Let me paint a scenario for you. So you walk into a space, you walk into a place, you walk into a gathering of people, and then you say, I have syphilis. Or maybe you walk in and said, I'm infected with the human papilloma virus. What will happen? People will just glance at you. Maybe a few people, will just look at you for a while and everybody will go back to business. But then if you walk into a space and you shout, I am HIV positive, everything will stop. Everyone will stop. Then begs the question, is HIV the ultimate sexually transmitted infection? Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Intimate Matters podcast. On this podcast, we discuss with you everything that pertains to your sexual and reproductive health. And for today, we're here again to talk about other STIs aside from HIV, because we're seeing a whole lot of people talking about HIV. We're seeing a whole lot of money spent on the treatment, on the prevention of HIV. But does that mean that HIV is like the most dangerous STI, or like HIV is the only STI? If this is just your first time of you joining us, please do well to like, subscribe, and also share these videos so that others can join, and do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. And when you go to our YouTube, you see a link to our WhatsApp group where you can join us and get to interact with us. So for today, we want to look at other STIs and compare them with HIV. Now, I feel the sentiment of the people that oftentimes react when it comes to HIV. Why? Because they feel that when HIV came, there was no cure, and there was a whole lot of, it was like HIV was almost like, a death sentence back then. And since then, that fear, the scare that people have felt over the years has still been a thing till today. But then what we've seen is that there have been other diseases that have popped up, sexually transmitted, that have almost the same severity like HIV. And that is what we're going to look at. But then before we start, let's just look at STIs as a whole, sexually transmitted infections. Sexually transmitted infections are basically infections that are passed through the sexual route. And although the issue with HIV majorly is the fact that for now there is no cure for HIV, I think that is why there is a whole lot of emphasis on HIV away from the other STIs. But then let me just give a wordy mention of STIs that have not the same, but almost similar morbidity and mortality as HIV, but has been greatly overlooked, maybe because they have cures. So let's look at gonorrhea, for example, the bacterial infection. The thing with gonorrhea is that because people easily diagnose it, if you have gonorrhea within a week or two, you will know if you listen to yourself, especially with the pains and difficulty that comes with trying to urinate. But then there is an aspect of gonorrhea that people overlook, which is the latency aspect of it, where if you do not treat the gonorrhea or you do not treat it appropriately, the symptom ceases. Now, when this symptom ceases, oftentimes people think that the disease is gone. I think that's how people feel, that the disease is gone, and they move on with their life. And this gonorrhea can lie latent in your body system for years and becomes a problem in the future, leading to complications like congenital abnormalities, where we see mothers who, are suffering from gonorrhea, who come to have children, and these children have abnormalities. Or sometimes it can lead to, it can move upward via the reproductive tract, leading to pelvic inflammatory disease that now causes problem to any of the reproductive organ, resulting in infertility. Same thing also happened with syphilis. Now, I know most people don't know this, but syphilis oftentimes comes hand in hand with HIV, right? But syphilis also is curable. But people don't know. I think that the common parlance in Nigeria about syphilis is sweet, right? Because of the what I would call the sweet sensation that the sauce, when the sauce itch and you scratch it, it gives off a sweet sensation, right? People oftentimes do not take out time to appropriately treat it, and then it can become a problem. But today we want to focus on two very key STIs that have almost the same mortality and morbidity as HIV. We want to look at hepatitis B, the hepatitis B virus. Hepatitis has different variants of the virus. There is A, there is B, there is C, there is D, and each of these have their peculiarities. But we really want to look at hepatitis B viral infection, which actually is a viral infection that gets into the body and then goes to attack the liver. The liver is the organ in the body that is responsible and plays a very active role in the process of breaking down every single chemical that gets into the body. So the chemical that comes in via food, comes in via drugs, you drinking, you inhaling, whatever chemical that comes into your body that needs to be metabolized, that needs to be broken down. It is the liver that plays that function. But when this virus comes into your body, it goes straight to the liver. When it goes to the liver, it goes to attack the liver. And when this happens, it cripples the metabolic process of the body. Now, it is very easily transmittable sexually, but most people do not care about it. So oftentimes, when you're talking to people, you see people, you tell them about, do they know the status? When they say, do you know the status of your partner? The first thing that people go to look at and people run to is HIV. So sometimes, now I hear that people now have HIV test kits, especially the self-test kit at home, where they keep, and anybody that comes and they want to indulge in sex with them, they give it to them to test. What about other STIs like hepatitis B? Have you ever sat down to wonder if the person may be free of HIV, but that the person may have hepatitis and can still pass it to you? Now, just like HIV, since it's passed through, body fluids, especially fluids that are exchanged during sex, and also blood products, hepatitis also can pass through other means that HIV can pass through, like sharing of sharps. So for people who inject drugs, for example, who have to share needles, for example, they may also contract hepatitis. But then it feels like nobody is talking about it and nobody worries about hepatitis. Everyone is more concerned about, HIV everywhere. But the reality is that hepatitis, the rate of spread of hepatitis is getting very high, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, almost at par, almost getting beyond the spread of HIV. And the good news, and also what makes it a little bit unfortunate, is the fact that hepatitis is a disease that has a vaccine, unlike the HIV virus. The HIV, you can only contract the HIV and then you go for treatment since there is no cure. Hepatitis also has no cure, but then there's a vaccine. But many people do not want to take the vaccine. Many people feel like it's not important. And they feel that it does not affect them, maybe because it's not HIV. And I feel because it doesn't have the kind of stigma or the kind of, should I say, bad report, if I should say so, that HIV has, people just completely overlook it. But then it's part of the vaccines, it's part of the diseases that you can take vaccine against. So why are we not having these vaccines? So this is why here on the Intimate Matters podcast, we're sharing with you to know that, yes, HIV is an STI. Yes, HIV is dangerous. Yes, you should protect yourself against HIV. But beyond HIV, there are also other STIs that you should look out for. That just like HIV, they're not curable. But the good news is that unlike HIV, STIs like hepatitis, have vaccines. Go out there and take your vaccine against hepatitis. Protect yourself and also protect your partner. There are also drugs just like HIV for you to use if you've already contacted the virus. There are also drugs for you to use and to protect yourself. This protection helps you that your body, your liver, which is actually the main organ of your body that the hepatitis virus attacks, does not shut down completely. So you need to look out for this and you need to watch yourself for this. Also go and test. And not every time concentrating on HIV. Another disease that I want to bring to the fore for people to know is human papilloma virus, called the HPV. The human papilloma virus in itself, oftentimes, people may say does not kill, right? But then the human papilloma virus, about 100 strains of it has been identified for now medically, and 40 of the 100 strains, that's 40%, right, has been implicated in various diseases. So I'll have to take them one by one, but let me just give you a list of diseases that are caused by human papilloma virus, right? Genital warts. I think that's almost like the most common. Cervical cancer, anal cancer, penile cancer, vulvar cancer, vaginal cancer, even throat cancer. And I'm going to walk you through how all of this happen. But then, in as much as HPV, that's human papilloma virus, is causing this much disease condition, it doesn't have the same, I don't want to call it popularity. I want to call it, it's not as notorious, if I should say so, as the HIV virus. And I feel that we are overlooking it, and slowly that we are making it slide. And don't forget that human papilloma virus, the bulk of it is passed through sexual processes. Also, on the flip side, it can also be passed through contact. Right? So for people that do sexual processes like what we call dry humping, where you get to, you don't want to penetrate, as the case may be, but you're rubbing your body part against body part. Maybe you're rubbing the genitals together, right? As the case may be. It can also pass through that means. So it's essential that we also look at this. So when we look at the human papilloma virus, like another thing why I feel that we need to look at this is the fact that it's also something that can be preventable, the fact that it has a vaccine. But then it goes through a process, especially when it's implicated in the cause of cancer. When the body is normal, then you have the virus. When you have the virus grows into, causes what we call precancerous lesions. And even at the stage of causing precancerous lesions, it can be reversed. Something can be done that it does not become a full-blown cancer. But this can only happen if you have knowledge of it, and if you know that you already have the virus, and you can only know you have the virus when you go to check. In fact, it's become so bad that when we're doing maybe like premarital counseling, what should I say, premarital testing against, STIs and other things that need to be done in terms of the reproductive health and the sexual health before marriage or before a committed relationship. Oftentimes, people lay the focus on HIV. Rarely do you see people look at things like human papilloma virus, but it's here and it's causing a problem. So when the human papilloma virus gets into the body, it causes precancerous lesions, especially when it leads to cervical cancer. It causes precancerous lesions, and then, as the case may be, if you go for treatment at that point, it can be reversed. It can be reversed. That is what we know, and that is what medical science has been able, to tell us. So why are people not testing? And now it is so common that we're looking at, if you test, like you can, 7 out of 10 people you test most likely will be positive to the human papilloma virus. Yes, I know that the body self-limits its activities. When I say the body self-limits its activities, it means that oftentimes the body immune system fights it to a point that it does not become a full-blown disease condition, that it does not lead to the manifestation of symptoms. But it means that you need to have a strong immune system. And sometimes it can hang around in your body long enough that if your immune system gets suppressed, maybe due to one reason or the other, for example, you may take drugs for another disease condition entirely, and it suppresses your immune system. That means the human papilloma virus can pop up and become a problem to you and predisposes you to these various cancers that I've mentioned. Now let's look at the throat cancer for those people, that have a good throat game, the ones we call the throat goats, right? People that love to lick plates, people like love to wash, right? It's essential for you to know that during this sexual process, by wash I mean like oral sex, during the process of oral sex, that this virus can be moved from the genital to the throat. So getting it from the genital to the throat means that it can also affect the mucous cells that are in the throat, leading to formation of cancerous lesions. This is why we're saying that for a disease condition that has no cure like HPV, it is not getting the kind of awareness that it should get because it's not curable. Now, I don't know if you've noticed the trend about this, that hepatitis, HPV, HIV, they're all viral diseases. Viral diseases have no cure. They can only be treated and they can only be managed. That is why here at the Intimate Matters podcast, we bring to you and tell you that beyond HIV, yes, there is a greater load, a greater disease burden when it comes to HIV. But beyond HIV, you need to look out for these other STIs that are also viral infection that do not have cure, like the HPV that we were discussing. So please, as you're listening to this, do well to share this, do well to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share this to other people so that they should know about this disease condition. It's essential that they know about this disease condition. There's so many people out there who are having, just because they know that their partner is not HIV positive, they're having unsafe sex, doing whatever it is that they want to do because they feel that nothing can happen. Because they feel that, HIV is, I don't know what I should say, is the goat of all infections. But then there are other ones. They may not be as loud as HIV, but they do the same damage, sometimes even more. So that's why we bring it here. And for a disease that there are vaccines against, why are we not taking this vaccine? I celebrate the Nigerian government who found it needful to include the human papilloma virus vaccine, as part of the required vaccines down for, in the immunization schedule. Because people need this vaccine. So it's essential. If you're 0 to 26 years, go out there and get your HPV vaccine. Nonetheless, disclaimer, it works better with people who've not had sex before, virgins, because a vaccine works to protect you before you are exposed to the virus. And with how common HPV is, it is almost possible that by the time you have your first sexual contact, there is a likelihood that you've already been exposed to the virus. But nonetheless, if you still insist, you can still get the vaccine based on advice by your medical professional. So it's essential for you that you get this right information for yourself. Yes, HIV is deadly. And I think another funny thing you should know is that HIV suppresses your immune system and may give room for some of these diseases that I've mentioned to come in. So yes, this is not just HIV. HIV, sometimes I used to liken it to, I would want to say, somebody coming to your house, rob you, tie you down, and open the gate of your house for anyone who wants to come in. He might just come and tie you down, but open the gate for anybody who wants to come in and maybe steal whatsoever it is they want to steal, to come in and steal it. Right? So that is how it is. So beyond us focusing on HIV, commendable, protect yourself against HIV, it's essential then that you look out for other disease. Hepatitis is fast becoming, it's not even fast becoming, it's already, a public health menace. And the morbidity and the mortality from hepatitis is slowly competing with HIV. So what do you do to protect yourself? Because we're not here to just trade at you and not tell you what you should do to protect yourself. We still have the ABC of safe sex. Abstinence is the best thing you can do for yourself. I've said it again and again. If you have no business with sex, please walk away from it. Allow it to go. Now, if you feel that then you should have sex, which is actually your personal preference, if you think that you should have sex, please, it's essential that foremost, you should have a partner. Find and be faithful to a partner who is mutually faithful to you. I cannot overemphasize on mutually faithful to you. It's It's something that I have to seriously emphasize on, because the reality we're seeing is that you might be faithful, but your partner might not be faithful. And then if your partner is not faithful, your partner puts you at risk also, of getting some of these sexually transmitted infections. So be faithful to a mutually faithful partner. I don't know how you can assure that, but that is what you should do. And then the C has to do with correct and consistent condom use. Many people use condom consistently. Many people, not everyone, some people, let me say some, not many people. Some people use condom consistently, but oftentimes they don't use it correctly. We will talk about it in another episode of this podcast. That's why you need to subscribe to this podcast, because there are a whole lot coming your way. We'll talk about how to use condom correctly and consistently. There are certain things you need to know about condom so you can use it and it will be effective. From storage, you should know how to store your condom. You can't just store your condom anyhow. I see people put their condoms in their wallet and move around. It shouldn't be so. So from storage, from when you go to buy it, some people just buy it maybe because they feel it's not an edible substance. They don't care to check the expiry date. Condom is manufactured. It can expire. So check the expiry date. Some people don't even check to see if there is a fault. Because the lubricant, something the Nigeria we call it ororo. The ororo, that's a lubricant, the slimy-like substance, right, that helps in the lubrication of condom, needs to be intact. So if there's any puncture and that lubricant leaks off, that condom is not good for use. But most people don't care to check it. What it is, they just buy it. Even the way you use it, even the way you open it, you see people just put it in their mouth and they tear it open. Right? There's a reason why the edges are serrated, so that you can easily use your hand and tear it. Because there's a possibility that you putting it in your teeth to tear it might cause a problem. Because even if part of it, it's made of latex, that's rubber, so it's quite fragile. So if your teeth hit on it, it can puncture it. And if it punctures it, it does not give you the protection that you're looking for. So it's essential. Some people feel that double means better, which is not so. So we have what we call double baggaging of condom, where people have to wear 2, wear 3. All these are not correct practices of using condom. So if you do all of these things, they do not protect you against this STI. So you need to use condom correctly and consistently. And I think you also need to know that condom is not a one-size-fits-all. It's essential for you to know that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Yes, there are different condom sizes. That's why you go sometimes you see they call it Magnum. So you need to know the length of your penis, the length of your organ, and then you put it side by side, to know the right condom that you use. Because if you use something that is oversized, it will slip off. So most times they say it's an accident. It slips off. Or sometimes if you wear undersized, it bursts open. So that is something that you need to know. So if you can abstain, have a partner. Especially if you want to have unprotected, that's why I say unprotected, you're not using condom. Have a partner that you're mutually that you're faithful to, and your partner is mutually faithful to you. If you feel that's not okay, use condom correctly and consistently. And if you do this, you protect yourself against HIV and these other disease conditions that are getting to have the same morbidity and mortality as HIV. It's essential that you do that. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about disease condition, sexually transmitted infection with similar morbidity and mortality as HIV, because we feel that they are not blowing the whistle a whole lot on this disease condition. Everything is almost about HIV. Yes, HIV is dangerous. Yes, HIV leads to increased mortality and morbidity. Yes, but then there are others like hepatitis B that attacks the liver and is also passed through the sexual route. But then also the human papilloma virus, HPV. But one thing you should know is that these are diseases that have vaccines. So go out there, take your vaccines, go out there, protect yourself. And we believe if you protect yourself, you not just protect against this disease, you protect against HIV, protect against hepatitis, protect against HPV, protect against chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and so many other. Because we want you to be safe. We want you to stay safe out there. That is why we have this podcast, the Intimate Matters podcast, because we believe that your intimacy matters. And that's why we bring to you everything you need to know about your sexual and reproductive health. So for today, we talk about other STIs with the same morbidity and mortality as the HIV disease. So do well, like this video if you've not yet liked it, subscribe to this channel, and please share it to everybody that needs to hear this. Follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, on YouTube, and also on TikTok. And do well to join our WhatsApp group. You'll find the link to the WhatsApp group on the YouTube description. And we'll be glad to hear from you. We'll be glad that you should suggest topics that we should talk about. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Intimate Matters podcast. My name is Nurse Akwawa Akpan, and I am your anchor on this podcast. And as always, I want to remind you that your intimate matters is of great essence. That is why you should always tune in to Intimate Matters podcast. Thank you so much and stay safe. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.